Hello everybody, welcome once again back to the channel. We are in the car and it's daylight. Something has gone terribly wrong because we've seen yet another new movie, but not in the middle of the night. I'm joined by my esteemed co-host, DJ. Say hi, DJ.
Hello.
Tonight's new film was none other than the religious political thriller, Conclave.
Mm-hmm.
DJ, what did you think about the movie on a scale of 1 to 10?
9.25.
9.25. I'm going to love that when we have to do all the averages. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to say it's a solid 8. For the type of film that it is, it's a bit of a slow burn, but the cinematography is very good. The sound design is very good. The story is interesting and engaging, and it kind of keeps you interested and curious the entire time as more and more layers of the story develop. Overall, very well done, very good movie. Only warning I have for people going to see it is it's a bit of a slow burn at times. It can be a bit boring.
It's slow at the beginning.
Yep.
And then it just ramps up. It is a thriller in the truest sense. This is and a lot of the classic sense of the story-wise, I mean, like, the way thrillers are built, it's a very classic build of a thriller. Mm-hmm. This feels much like so many films that they made decades ago, where it's just a slight layering of conflict while resolving conflicts as you go. It's that step ladder effect, where it's like you take 2 steps up, 1 back, 2 steps up, 1 back, and you feel that tension the whole film, because every time a plot point or something is resolved, there's still at least 1 or 2 unsolved mysteries on top of it.
Or
and there's
they find one thing out, 2 more things branch out from that.
And it's layered, and it's not layered in a formulaic way. There's like a grand mystery laid out in the beginning, and then that takes place over the entire thing that you're feeling here. But then there'll be another one that will come up later that gets resolved immediately, but then something else that gets brought up that doesn't get resolved towards it's out of order. All of these mysteries are popping in and out almost like perfectly without interrupting each other. None of the mysteries or the intrigue pulls away from the plot or makes you get sidetracked or confused. Nothing's throwing you and that, like, even red herrings, which are a normal thing of mystery in this type of film, none of them make you feel stupid or dumb, or it all pays off. Mm-hmm. Every single time you get the information you're craving, you feel satisfied with it. It's exactly the opposite of the last movie we just watched.
What was the last one we just watched? We Live in Time.
No, I was thinking of, for the other channel that we just watched.
Son of Dracula.
Son of Dracula. Yeah.
It definitely does not have a lot of tension and intrigue. It's not a tale of intrigue. This one is high tension, but it's more of an intrigue tale than like full-on thriller tale. This
is a film in the which is what I thought when I watched the trailers for it, and I'm glad it paid off as such. This gave me really heavy 12 Angry Men vibes. Yeah. Where the tension is all in the interpersonal connections of the characters. It is literally all in what everybody's dealing with, how they feel about things, how they talk about things, how they act, how they the disparities between how people feel and how they actually emote, and then how they actually speak is never necessarily, it's not always the same. Mm-hmm. People will say one thing, do another. They will feel one thing, say another. That's where all that tension comes in a film like this. And I love this kind of film where it's just raw emotion, people just trying to get through an event of some kind. To be fair, a lot of like horror thrillers are the same thing. The event is them being chased by a killer or a thing, but it's a similar thing. The movie focuses on the characters talking to each other, relating to each other, is what really makes the film. The difference is, instead of it being a killer or a thing, it's actually a vote, it's an event, it's the conclave, and it's a big deal. And there's all the pressure is on them just having to deal with those people outside that want to know the answer. Everybody inside, they've been in there for days. Everybody's just on edge, and it's just that's it. It seems such a simple thing, and you on paper you'd look at it and go, "This is what we're making a movie about," but it works. And like you said, the cinematography is freaking amazing. The last point before we go into spoilers is there was one shot in the film that I'll go into a little more detail later, but there's a shot in the film where they separate all the characters and they leave main characters to what they're naming people in the film and during a vote, and the people, it shows just the ones that they voted on. Mm-hmm. And it's just one of the most beautiful shots in a film I've ever seen. The cinematography, the effect that it has. And it takes place at a time when a lot has happened, a lot of changes have happened. I won't go into detail of what, but it doesn't really spoil the film, because again, it's a conclave. Like it's literally about them in a vote. But that shot was just beautiful.
Yeah. There's a lot of moments in the movie that it just was done to near perfection.
Yes. And the framing of it too.
The framing is usually on point. Usually when they pull away and do a different shot, it works really well. Even the sound. There's one scene in particular where the sound design is just crisp.
Oh, I know exactly what you're talking about. That was solid. Oh, and the music.
And the music is great.
The soundtrack to this is perfect. Just to kind of see why my score was what it was, I would almost give this film a 10, because it's just so well made. There's just a couple of little issues here and there that kind of make it. Soundtrack was not one of them. That one of the reasons this got such a high score is the music is emotionally just keeps you right on point the whole time. Like, they did a great job with that. And there's like silence in one part of the film, and that's when the sound comes in, and it's just perfect.
Yep.
And then somebody's phone rang.
That's true. Most of the way through the film, somebody's phone started ringing. And
it's like the one silent part of the film.
Well, it got kind of quiet, but the other thing is that like sound started creeping in. And so when the phone went off, and the thing is that it was an old person, so it's just the standard ringtone.
You're thinking like
I thought it was on screen.
Start of the movie, yeah.
I thought
for a second there, I was like,
oh my gosh, are they getting did they find out that somebody in the conclave has a cell phone? Like, that was the thing. I thought that was the thing. I'm like, they're not supposed to have cell phones.
Because it was quiet too, like it was in somebody's pocket. And I'm like, is this in the movie? What's happening? And then in the film, everybody's looking around, and I'm like, oh crap.
Yeah, like I thought it was.
and then somebody silenced it, pulled it out, and I was like, oh, that's not part of the movie. That would have been really interesting. That has no bearing on my rating, but that was really wild.
It's just the importance of like why you silence your cell phones in a movie, and it is because like most of the people that don't silence their cell phones or have their phones on with sound are old, so they don't have like personalized ringtones.
Yeah.
So the ones that are going off in the theater, if it's an old person's phone, is the one that Hollywood probably would use in the movie, because everybody knows that that's just like a stereotypical ringtone.
Yeah, it worked a little too well.
Yeah. And it went off at just the right point.
Yeah.
That it was just like, oh my gosh, it's actually like broke the immersion for a moment. Because it's like, I was really into it. I'm like, oh, somebody's got a cell phone. And it's like, no, it's just the old person in front of us.
Yeah.
Forgot to silence their cell phone.
That is actually a testament to this movie, though, because that did break the immersion, but it was so easy to get back into it.
Well, yeah, it's one of those movies that's very good. Overall, I would recommend seeing it in theaters. If you are going to go see a movie this weekend, this is one to put on your list if you are into kind of slow burns, but it's very high tension, but everything gets explained at the end. So it's one of those things, too, where it doesn't like leave you with like a haunting feeling.
Yeah.
Overall, very solid film. That's all I gotta say. You want to go into spoilers?
Yep.
All right. Spoilers.
I've been warned. If any of you complain about spoilers again, it's on you.
Spoilers. I cannot believe that it turned out that the entire time the Conclave was not, in fact, for the Roman Catholic Church, but the Republican National Convention. That was such a weird, like, plot twist where it just pointed out that, like, we really are not in control when it comes to our elections. And it's terrifying.
That part where they were printing the voting machines out in the basement of the Catholic Church.
I just thought that for like a minute that could possibly be a thing, because he was talking to the one bishop, the one cardinal, and was like, okay, well, you've changed your vote. Is that because he promised you like a position like Secretary of State? And I was just like, oh my gosh, what if this is actually like somebody like trying to run for president?
Yeah, I do. Yeah. No, this Okay, so the entire film is literally just nothing really happens.
Conclave is about a conclave.
Yeah, it's about the conclave. But there are a couple things that do happen in the film that I didn't really expect that got a little... So there's 2 terrorist attacks that happen during it. Right. And then they have like a major twist in the end, where it turns out that like this secret cardinal that came out of nowhere. So they... a major plot point in a mystery of this whole thing during the conclave is there's a lot of different members of the conclave that have their secrets and their things they deal with. And one of them is there's a cardinal right at the beginning that shows up out of nowhere, and nobody knows anything about him, but he has official paperwork. And the Pope kept it a secret that he was made, and they all just assume it's because he's from Afghanistan, because he was Kabul, and it's in a lot of other dangerous places. It's like, yeah, they kept it a secret because they, to keep him safe. But it turns out either the real reason, or at least another reason, because that's legitimate too, is that he's intersex. Yep. He was born with, well, at least it's alluded to that he was born with both genitalia.
Well, it's clear that he was not aware. It's
that he had female organs inside.
Yeah, it wasn't like he was born with like both. He would have identified it. He was like, I didn't think there was anything different about me. He had a surgery, and they found that he had a uterus and ovaries.
Yeah, he had internal female organs in addition to his external male organs.
Yeah.
So that comes out at the very end of the film, and like the guy who's the dean, who's been driving the force of trying to keep everything intact.
So the dean is essentially the guy who's running the conclave. He's like kind of like the electoral president of sorts for the church.
Yeah.
Just, it is one of those things. It's like an over-encompassing term, dean.
Yes,
clarify.
And he's basically the operations manager at the headquarters of the church. He's the one that's keeping everything running. He's in charge of like the daily affairs of things that are being done. He's in charge of like the construction, that kind of stuff. So he comes in and learns of this right after this person is elected pope, because they gave this amazing speech that kind of unified everybody, and everyone voted for them. And you see it coming, like as soon as they make that speech. But it's still, when they showed that it was him, man, it felt good. It was like, yeah, they deserve it. Yeah. And when it comes out as that, like it's funny because the whole time the dean is having like a crisis of faith, of just what's their purpose and what they're here for, and that kind of like shakes him, but then like strengthens him at the same time, and it ends on that note, and it's just so beautiful, because the statement that he makes is, I thought about removing these things, but then I'm like, the cardinal that was intersex says that I thought about going to have surgery to remove these things, but then I realized that I am what God made me. I'm just going to, unless it's a problem, unless it's medically an issue, I'm just going to live with it. It's just the way that I am. And I was just kind of like, it was just like a really pungent point. And then it just ends there. And it doesn't really strike you hard. It's not, one of the things I like about this film is it's not, there's a lot of religion, obviously. There's a lot of that in there, but it's not preachy to the point of like, it's not telling you what you need to believe. It is presenting its arguments fairly and letting you as the audience decide what you would feel about it. It doesn't end with, that was incorrect of him, or he should have been there, or he should have been there. It's, he is there, and then it ends. Right. And I love that. I love this take of it is what it is. Audience, how do you feel about this? And the whole film was like that, with a lot of the doctrine and all that stuff they talk about.
Well, and the other thing too is that it really kind of shows why it is so highly complicated, and that they're self-aware. They're aware of like everything that's going on. They're like, okay,
the humanity of it is solid.
The humanity of it, and they're all like, we're all human beings. We all have issues, but we need to find somebody who can lead, somebody who the public will accept, as well as somebody who's going to take a stand for what the church stands for, because the Pope leads what the church will present to the world. So it's interesting to see that they have a couple of different people, and they're pointing out, they're like, there's a lot of differences in the denomination, and we need somebody who's going to represent all of them. And then they have like a strong arm, very conservative leader, like a conservative voice. They have a moderate voice. They have a very liberal voice,
and they have like a go back to the olden days voice.
Well, that's what I meant. Like, like strong conservative, medium conservative, moderate.
I meant like, I was thinking like the one guy that brought the guy in to shame the other one, Tremblay. He seemed to be more like conservative. Like, we don't want to like push things any further. We kind of want to stay where we are.
He was
the Italian guy,
the middle guy.
Yeah, the Italian guy was like
the far to the like. We need to go back.
We need to go back.
And then there was another guy who was in between the two, who's like, he was fairly moderate, but he was highly conservative, specifically on sexuality.
Yeah.
And then we had the guy who was slightly to the left. He was identifying as part of the liberal camp, but he didn't want to run. Lawrence. He was kind of on the left, not really moderate. And then he had a very far left friend who was Bellini.
Bellini, yeah.
And Bellini was like, no, we need to continue to progress.
And it was Audebay was the other guy that was our candidate.
Yeah, and he
the guy from
that was the guy who was against sexuality.
Yeah.
So
you had all these
so it's like you had 6 people, and they all very, very different. So it's interesting because the church continues to like go out with all the different votes, and they're fluctuating a lot. And it's just one of those things where it's like understanding how complicated everything is and the political nature of all this stuff. And so you're kind of wrapped into like all the scandals that are going on, but then you're also wrapped into like, okay, well, who's actually going to be the leader that they want, and who's lying, who's actually dangerous if they were in charge. So it's just so layered. It's so good. That's like all I have to say.
The one that I really enjoy, there's a few lines in the film, especially since we're in spoilers now, I really wanted to say these, that like just stuck out to me specifically, and a lot of it's the humility of it. There's a line where the three of the main members who have votes for themselves, who are trying to see who they want to unite their votes against, or who they want to send their votes to. One of the guys is talking about like some of the popes they've had in the past. He's like, we've had popes that, worked with the Nazis. We had popes that like, covered up sexual scandals. He's like, we've had bad popes. But we're human. It's like he literally says, it's like, we're not electing a god here. That we're men. Like we're fallible. We're just doing the best we can to try to drive people forward. We just want to help. We're just trying to help the world be better. But we're part of that world, and we're not perfect. And that was like that is solid, and showing the humanity, because the Catholic Church does get a lot of flack for things, and I think part of the problem is people expect them to be perfect, and I don't understand why. If you don't expect yourself to be perfect, why would you expect the men of the cloth to be any more perfect than you are? They're human, just like you. Right. And there was a line in I think it was actually it was Angels and Demons, which is the first book.
Dan Brown.
Yeah. Dan Brown before he wrote Da Vinci Code.
Right.
Where he's standing in front of one of the higher cardinals after the Pope was elected, and he says, the church is only imperfect because it's run by men who are also imperfect. Like, we are here to do the best we can. We're never going to make all the right decisions. Even if God is leading the church personally, we're not going to do things the right way all the time. We are imperfect. And so we just do the best we can. And this film embodies that in a really way that you can relate to. it humanizes the cardinalship.
Well, it humanizes everything, and it kind of gives you like an inside look. That's the nice thing, is it gives you an inside look, and it's very, very honest, and it's not, like you said, it's not preachy. It's not like this is the right way, this is the wrong way. There's leaders that they say stuff, and then it's just like, yes, what they're saying makes sense, and they rile up everybody. But then somebody comes in like voice of reason. It's one of those things where it's interesting to see, because as much as the Catholic Church and people around the Catholic Church have given this veneer to the whole process, it's a very human take, but it's a respectful human take. That's kind of the nice
it's
part.
respecting the people and the source that it's coming from. It's respecting the church in a way that it's not trying to demean anyone or showing wrong. It's literally showing the humanity of these people. It's like, look, this isn't some like magical thing where people walk into a room and they wave a wand and suddenly everybody, and there's a new pope. Like, it's a conversation that they have to have with each other and who they feel. And there's a moment where they go, where one of the guys is like, I don't want it, and he's like, that's why we want you, because people who want it are what's terrible. And then like the next scene, he's chastising the other guy for not giving it to him, and it's like, you're being a hypocrite. But that's the point.
Yeah.
He didn't realize he wanted it until he couldn't have it, and then he realized
until it was in his grasp,
and then he realized that he actually wanted it. And but everybody comes at each other with like anger, but they'll come back and apologize, and they come ask for forgiveness. One of the greatest scenes is Abele, the African cardinal who had a relationship with a woman 30 years before.
Yeah,
he admits his sin and was like, I made a mistake and I don't want to lose out of this. And the guy tells him honestly, you won't be pope, and it's not because you made this mistake, it's because the rumor of the mistake is bad enough.
Yeah.
And he admits to himself and to others that we're all judging each other based off of what we are.
Yeah.
And we're not perfect. Like, we're all sitting here talking about how the pope should be perfect, but none of us are, and we're like expecting each other to be perfect, and we're holding each other to standards we won't even hold ourselves to, and we realize we're even falling short of our own standards, let alone the ones. It's insane. Like, it just,
well, the best part of that entire scene though is that it shows this scandal, it shows all these issues, but then it shows the humanity of Adia. Was it like Adia?
Oh, the sister?
No, the cardinal. It was like Adia.
Oh, yeah.
He goes in and he's like, I want to be pope. I had this like whole, like, I felt the spirit. I'm supposed to be the pope. But then he kind of breaks down and he's like, I tried to do what was best. I tried to do what was right. He doesn't know who his father is, but I made sure he was raised in a good home. I made sure that he was taken care of. And then he also continues, and he's like, this is like one mistake. Should a man really be punished and judged for one mistake for his entire life? And
the guy was like, no.
Well, Lawrence turns to him and says, no, you're not being punished. You're not going to be pope, but you're a good man. You're a good man.
You're doing your best.
You'll do your best, and you're a good man.
And then he asks him to pray with him, and they sit down, and there's that moment where they're sitting down praying, and then right after that, it does the vote count, and that's the shot what I was talking about, where the five like leading contenders are all sitting by themselves with nobody around them, with their votes being counted, and it's just showing that person like and you see
how they're handling
the pressure of the vote, and you see even the people that are getting it like feeling the pressure of it. Like, it's both ways. The people that miss out on it are sad, but the people who are getting it are also like terrified.
The responsibility, the pressure, because they're putting that pressure on like other people, even Lawrence to an extent. It's interesting too, because it's like it shows you the entirety of their humanity. All of them go through a character arc, like all of them. Lawrence is obviously the main character. He's the guy that we're following the most.
Yeah, he's the point of view character. Yeah.
His story arc is interesting though, because he literally begins and he's like, I don't want to be here at all. The Pope left me here. I don't want to be here. And then it becomes, well, I'm not a shepherd, but I'm a manager. And then it starts being, he's focusing on the managing. But then he does so many shepherding moments. Like, he talks to the cardinal when he's crying. He talks to the sister. He talks to all of the other people. And he seems to be the one that's, like, unifying them all. And then he starts getting a little bit of a big head to be like, okay, I might actually win. I might actually be the Pope.
Puts his name in, and then...
And he admits that he had the name that he would go by if he was Pope.
Yep.
And at that point, though, it's just like the falling action of him is like...
That moment where he puts the name of himself in the vote and the explosion happens is a beautiful scene. It almost is like he's being punished for, like, his hubris for a second there.
Yeah.
And then, like, he realizes that he's like... It's like this moment where he's like... Where he almost wants to look up and be like, what do you want? Like... But then they're all the division, and they're all sitting in the room, and when the priest from Kabul, I can't remember his name, is when he comes in, and it just starts talking, and everyone is like calms down.
Yeah,
and
like
he just,
the first guy riles them all up, and you're like, oh my gosh, they're unifying with that, and he's like being violent about it, and then they have the calming voice where it's like, no, it becomes very clear who you need to take charge. He's like, you don't know war. You speak of war, but you do not know it.
And the thing about him is, he doesn't sit there and chastise them for wanting it.
Yeah.
He honors their opinion, but says, look, what is it you actually want? What are you asking for?
Yeah.
He doesn't go, no, you're all idiots for wanting war. He goes, I understand you're all upset, but do you really know what it is you're asking for? And do you understand what it is that this will lead to? I have seen people of different faiths massacred in war. It's unrepentant. War doesn't care about your religion, your race, your sex. It doesn't care. It's going to mow everybody. It doesn't care what side you're on. War is indiscriminate. Even if you have a target, civilians always die in war. It's indiscriminate. It might be... Basically, a geographic area might be affected, but it's indiscriminate who is affected. And it doesn't care. And he makes that really clear, that what we need is to be a church of all people. Whether they want us to lead them or not, we lead the world. Our job should be to be the best we can be. And it just hits home to everyone. And again, it doesn't say, it's not like he's turning to the screen and preaching to the audience. He's telling them, calm down. Let cooler heads prevail. And they all understand that, okay, that makes sense. And you can appreciate that in the audience. Like, yeah, that makes sense. He's not telling you who's right, who's wrong for their beliefs or their... He's just saying, let's not get over ourselves.
Yeah, let's let cooler heads prevail.
Yeah. Yeah. And it does that so well. And it smoothly transitions into the end of the film. And still leaves you one last little twist of an unsolved thing that was slowly inferred throughout, that there was this mysterious illness or something that he had done. The new Pope had done earlier on. And they finally, that's the last mystery that they give you at the very end right after that. And it just feels satisfying once you get that last one. It's a really well done film. And honestly, the only reason I didn't give it a 10 out of 10 is because it's a slow burn. And it takes a little while to kind of establish things in the beginning. It starts out really solid with the death of the previous Pope. Yeah. But then there's like this little lull where you're not really sure what things are happening. And then it gets into the conclave, and then it's fine. Yeah. There's literally just like this one moment where the movie kind of loses its identity a little bit before it gets back on track. And honestly, a lot of little nitpicky stuff. It's just a really good film.
It's a good film. Solid.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks guys so much for watching. If you liked this video, or if you liked Conclave, please sure to like this video. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. What did you think about Conclave, or what other movies coming out to the end of the year are you interested in having us do a review of? We're always looking for recommendations. Otherwise, be sure to subscribe if you haven't already, and we'll see you guys in the next video.
Thanks for watching.